A judge has just found 4 humanitarians guilty for trespassing into federal lands to leave water and food for migrants who oftentimes die in this part of the desert. Now, the organizers, or the humanitarians, I should say, are from an organization known as No More Deaths. And this is a common thing that humanitarians do. They're very much concerned that women, children, people crossing these deserts don't have access to water, and as a result, they die in sweltering heat. But it seems to not matter too much for this US judge. US Magistrate Judge Bernardo Velasco has found 4 women guilty of entering a national wildlife refuge without a permit as they sought to place food and water in the Arizona desert for migrants. Now, one of those activist is Natalie Hoffman. She was found guilty of operating a vehicle inside Cabeza Prieta National Wildlife Refuge, entering the federally protected area without a permit and leaving water jugs and cans of beans there in August of 2017. The others were found guilty of entering without a permit and leaving behind personal property. So the argument that the judge made was, this is supposed to be a wildlife reserve, and if we're going to allow people to come in and leave things behind, it goes against the whole purpose of a wildlife reserve. But at the same time, the organization No More Deaths shared on social media examples of how Border Patrol has damaged that wildlife reserve. And they also showed an example of how, let's go to graphic 15. They showed a photo specifically featuring an unexploded military device. And so it's not like this is a pristine reserve. I want to protect the reserve, but I also want to protect people's lives, and leaving this water behind keeps people alive.
Since 2001, 155 people have died in that area. So if you're against them leaving food and water, then don't say you're pro-life. You're not pro-life. You might be pro-zygote, that's a different question, but you're not pro-life. If you say, well, if they're trying to cross the border without the proper documentation, then I hope they die, and I don't want them to get water in case they're dying of thirst. Okay, then you're not pro-life, and shut up about it. And so, and I don't know about these particular women, but generally, a lot of times the activists that participate are religious people, because they actually are not hypocritical. They actually are pro-life, and they want to protect those people's lives. Whether you do return those folks to their original country is a different matter. And nobody's saying, hey, just let them go, right? And if Border Patrol is going to do their job, let them do their job. But we don't need to gratuitously help in their deaths. If somebody is decent enough, and you could argue Christian enough, to want to help those people so they don't at least die, and then we now make that illegal, what does that make us?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a debate about deportation, of course that's a fair debate to have. But it is not a fair debate regarding whether or not you keep these people alive. And so Border Patrol has a history of looking for that water and that food and destroying it. In fact, we have video evidence of that just to show you from previous years. Take a look.
You get a good shot. Picking up this trash somebody left on the trail. It's not yours, is it? All you have to do is tell me, is it yours? Not yours. You're not gonna tell me, huh?
248-7201-42. It's just unnecessary cruelty, I don't understand it.
So now let's take their hypocrisy, as always. Cliven Bundy did a standoff because he was going into federal lands and he was using it for profit. He was using it to graze his cattle, which he profited off of. And when the government said, hey, you can't do that on federal lands, he said, oh yeah? And he pointed guns at the cops' heads. Said, oh yeah, I'll murder you guys if you try to do something about it. And they said, oh, I'm so sorry. And they never charged them. So you can point guns at cops and you could use federal land for profit, and that's all okay. But if you dare go on federal land to put water there so people don't die, well, no, you're gonna have to go to prison. They could get up to 6 months in prison for trying to save people's lives. But if you just wanna make a buck and then threaten cops' lives, that's totally okay. So why? in this country, there is a massive, massive different way that the right wing and the left wing are treated. The right wing can break laws ad infinitum. I mean, look at the president. He's broken how many countless laws now? And well, hey, we got to be balanced. I don't know, should we think about impeachment? No. I mean, he brought campaign finance laws, the emoluments clause, let alone the Russian interference, let alone the Mueller investigation, et cetera, et cetera.
Trump University, the
Trump charity, and the list goes on and on. And the Bundys go around breaking every law you can imagine. They don't care. You know what? I do have a clever idea though. And maybe this will get people to be able to leave the water and the food. Because the Bundys, as crazy right wing as they are not against immigrants because they're Mormons, and Mormons are immigrants themselves. So they have a philosophical agreement with immigration overall, right? So they don't want to be unnecessarily cruel to immigrants. So maybe if we can get the Bundys to leave the water and the food, then the government will be like, whoa, the right wing did it. Never mind, it's okay. Right away, whatever you would like, Mr. Bundy. Please put a gun to my head again. I appreciate it. And so yes, sir, absolutely, sir, right?
Or we can just get people to pose as right wingers as they're doing something to keep people alive. Again, this isn't even a debate about whether or not you allow them into the country, right? That's a separate debate. This is just about ensuring that people have a chance to live as they're risking their lives to flee their crime-ridden country for safety. I mean, it's out of control, the lack of human empathy. So when we have these discussions about what's moral and isn't moral, like Trump brought up how Democrats think that the border wall is immoral. No, that's not the argument that you're hearing from Democrats. But if you do want to have a discussion about what is and is not moral, destroying that water or preventing humanitarians from keeping people alive, that's immoral.
So I know what they're gonna say. The right wing's gonna say, well, they shouldn't have made that choice, man. Nobody told them to come here. Okay, that's fine. So your sense of morality is, if your living conditions in your country are so bad and you believe in America and you think it's a beacon of hope, well, you're an idiot. And if you come here, we're gonna let you die of thirst and go, it was your fault. And that's your concept of morality. Then you're a sick person who is deeply immoral and you just don't even know it.
And you don't get to argue that you're pro-life, okay, when you support this kind of needless cruelty. Like, that's the thing that drives me crazy. The only time you hear people protesting about how important life is and how sacred life is when it has to do with a zygote, when it has to do with a woman making a decision about her own body. That's the only time it matters. Never matters when it comes to situations like this, where people are literally dying in the desert of thirst. They don't care about that.
Yeah, and look, we're not like normal progressives. Normal progressives will say, oh my God, don't talk about morality at all. It's not fair to talk about your morality or my morality. No, I think it's fair. I think that they're the immoral ones, and we should call it what it is. If you say, let people die of thirst, you are immoral. Own it, live with it. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.